Well, it's Christmas has come early. This is fantastic news. And this is the first step towards ending the pandemic. We still have a long way to go. Pfizer can only get 1.3 billion doses to the world within 1 year period. So it will not be a silver bullet, but this is fantastic in terms of getting it out to the populations who need them the most. So really celebrated here in the UK.
Yeah, it's been such a quick development. People have been working intently on this vaccine. How confident, though, can those receiving it be about its safety?
No shortcuts have been made in the clinical trials. All of the procedures that are in place to develop medicines have been exactly the same. And actually, the standards for safety for vaccines are higher than for any other medication. And I think that's really important to say, is that certainly the time span has been remarkable, but that doesn't mean that we've taken any shortcuts here. And I think what we're used to seeing is vaccine development in a time when there are many other competing priorities in the world, when pharma companies have a broad portfolio where their best sellers might be around diabetes and heart medication. So the focus isn't necessarily on vaccine development. There are many vaccines that kind of got ditched halfway throughout the history of development as well. So in this instance, because the world has screeched to a halt, we've had enormous amount of scientists, researchers, academics collaborating with the pharmaceutical industry, over 200 companies coming together with this one objective, with more resources than ever to solve the problem. And that's why we were able to do it in 10 months instead of 10 years.
And Oksana, you talk about this being the game changer and an early Christmas present, but when you're talking about this large-scale vaccination campaign, the number of doses that really need to be scaled up, how realistically and how quickly is it going to stop COVID in its tracks?
All of our existing public health measures will have to continue. And that is what every government is also echoing, is that while we have some hope now, certainly, as you mentioned, it is going to take some time to roll out. But the good news is that we have 3 leading vaccines that can become available, and we expect to see more come into the pipeline soon. So from that perspective, we have a variety of different vaccines available, which may be more appropriate for different supply chains. It's just that this Pfizer one is the first to hit to cross that line in the UK. But absolutely, we still will have to live life differently, which means face masks, social distancing. This will stay with us for some time. A vaccine is one part of the solution, and it's a critical one if we look at the long game.
If the UK regulatory authorities have given it approval, how quickly might we see that happening in the US, in Australia?
I think the signal is that we should expect the other regulators to follow quite soon as well. They will have their own procedures in place, but it does signal to the world that it is possible to be able to review all of this data and this process. So I think we'll see another week full of good news across the world.
Yeah, and then do you expect the other 2 vaccines will get fast track approval as well, fairly swiftly?
Well, again, the early data that we saw so far from Moderna, from AstraZeneca, et cetera, what we saw was the press release. So it is critical that these independent bodies, here in the UK, that's the MHRA, in the US, it's the FDA, that they are able to independently review the safety and the protocols to ensure that it is efficacious in the real world, just as much as in those clinical trials. So again, based from that early data, what we saw, it points us in a positive direction, but it's up to that independent body to put that final stamp of approval, and it'll be up to them to see if there are any issues that they had not foreseen previously. So I definitely don't want to jump the gun. That's for the independent body, but lots of positive indications that this is on way.
And do you think it needs some kind of WHO oversight to ensure that every country that is grappling with this pandemic gets a crack at getting this vaccine?
This is a critical point. It's a global pandemic, and it won't come to an end until we have vaccines in all populations. If we only get the vaccine to high-income countries, it'll take longer for the pandemic to come to an end, as the low-income countries, again, people can reseed infections. Viruses know no borders. So it is through the WHO's COVAX facility. They've done excellent work in terms of coordinating with donors, with governments, to ensure that there are over 2 billion doses reserved for low-income countries. But more funding and finances are needed that way. So the WHO needs support in order to be able to ensure that those promises towards these other countries are delivered, and that these vaccines are equitably accessed, and these should be public goods. It is in the interest for all of us that the world is vaccinated, because it means that we can return towards a safer place for everyone sooner. So it is in everyone's interest.
Oksana, it was so good to get your insights on this. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much.